They claim that we should support ensuring that people who are an imminent danger to themselves and others, such that they might commit mass murder, have a constitutional right to access a firearm, and to deny them that right would, quote, trample on an individual's due process and Second Amendment rights. You know who didn't have due process? You know who didn't have their constitutional right to life respected? The kids at Parkland and Sandy Hook and Uvalde and Buffalo, and the list goes on and on. So spare me the about constitutional rights.
Would the gentleman yield?
No, I will not yield, and I'm not going to yield for my entire 5 minutes, so don't ask again.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So you see this debate is starting to heat up when it comes to gun legislation, new gun legislation. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to listen to Congressman Cicilline. He is going to be talking about a new plan that they have in the House. So let me explain kind of what's going on right now. The Senate returns today, and the House, they had their special session where, I mean, they're on recess now, but they put together a special session just in this committee so they can do a markup, pretty much put together a bill in the House. So you have the House and you have the Senate. They're both working on gun legislation. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right now. When we're going to look at this video, we're going to look at the House side. Now, the Senate, they'll be back in session today, so we'll probably hear more information coming out when it comes to how their negotiations are going with some type of new gun reform. Now, I did a poll as well, and I'm gonna show that poll after we watch this video. So that's what we're gonna talk about in this video. But first off, on this channel, we talk about money and the struggles that Americans are facing today. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right to this. This is a little lengthy. And there is some profanity. I will blurt out the profanity. And I think it's good to see politicians show some passion. I mean, we know how politicians work. There are some politicians that will actually show passion, show that they want to represent the American people. And then you have some other politicians, they're just going through the motions. Okay, they're collecting their paycheck. They're going on recess every month. They're just enjoying themselves pretty much. Okay, they like the fact that this position gives them power, which means that they can earn more money. And so it's good to see some politicians that are out there that are passionate about representing the American people. So let's go ahead and take a look and listen. Here we go.
Is a radical position being offered by our friends on the other side of the aisle. They claim that we should support ensuring that people who are an imminent danger to themselves and others, such that they might commit mass murder, have a constitutional right to access a firearm, and to deny them that right would, quote, trample on an individual's due process and Second Amendment rights. You know who didn't have due process? You know who didn't have their constitutional right to life respected? The kids at Parkland and Sandy Hook and Uvalde and Buffalo, and the list goes on and on. So spare me the about constitutional rights.
Would the gentleman yield?
No, I will not yield, and I'm not going to yield for my entire 5 minutes, so don't ask again. So first of all, these risk protection orders work. They ensure that people who are a grave danger to themselves or others don't have access to a firearm. This is an idea that, by the way, the former Republican president said, and I quote, "We must make sure that those judged to pose a grave risk to public safety do not have access to firearms. And that if they do so, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. That's why I've called for red flag laws, also known as extreme risk protection orders." The former Republican president. The bill introduced by Senator Lindsey Graham. So this view of our Republican colleagues on this committee, that no matter how dangerous you are, no matter how much you've exhibited an intention to kill others or kill yourself, you should have unfettered access to a firearm because the Second Amendment guarantees it. That is nonsense. Risk protection orders are modeled after.
Okay, so I want to cut away just real quick. There are two things that I want to say. That you hear that other politician in there trying to interject and just trying to, it's a whole distraction, right? He's trying to get in there and get in his head, I guess. But I also want you to look in the background, just look at the display that they have, 214 days. And then I can't see exactly how many, I think it's 230 mass shootings or something like that. But you see the information behind them. I just wanted to make sure you guys see that while it's playing, because if I talk about it after, you guys will know, you guys will be able to see, okay, yeah, those were the numbers. But if I don't say anything, then you guys will miss it. So let's go ahead and get back. Here we go.
After domestic violence statutes, they have due process. They have notice requirements, a right to a hearing, a right to contest the seizure of the firearm. That's the due process which exists. It's available in all the states that have these laws, which is why they've been upheld by courts when challenged. So this idea that there's no due process is baloney. There is due process. There is a process. It's been found to be constitutionally acceptable. And it's not a permanent removal from a firearm, as Mr. Jordan suggested. It's a temporary removal so that person doesn't slaughter and kill others or kill him or herself. We know they work, and I ask unanimous consent to introduce into record extreme risk laws save lives.
Without objection.
That details the many examples where individuals where the lives of individuals and others have been saved because of this temporary intervention in the face of evidence of harm. It is shocking that our Republican colleagues have been clamoring about due process of would-be killers, and yet they've never mentioned the deprivation of due process of victims of gun violence, the deprivation of life that families experience when people are slaughtered with a gun by someone who's seriously mentally ill and shouldn't have a firearm. Haven't heard one word about their constitutional right to remain alive in this country. And this notion that you can't take away a gun from a seriously dangerous person, even temporarily, even after a judge has a hearing and determines that that person's a danger, is shocking. It's radical. It's even a departure from most Republicans. And by the way, 90% of the American people support this legislation, 75% of gun owners. And the former president who was cheered at the NRA convention, cheered as a big cheer, he supports it. That was his statement I read. And the notion of someone could make up a false claim, people are required to testify under oath. There are penalties if you lie. And most states have protections that make it illegal to file a false petition. That's built into the statute. But what this really is gun manufacturers and gun salesmen and people who are here to say no matter what, everyone in America should have access to as many guns as they want, no matter what their condition is, no matter what they intend to do with it, no matter who they slaughter, because gun sales promote revenue. And the gun manufacturers don't want any limitations on it. And it's disgraceful to hear people on this committee who are charged with taking an oath and protecting the lives of the constituents they represent to argue that someone who is seriously mentally ill, who's presented that they are a danger to themselves or others if they have access to a firearm, that they have a constitutional right and it will trample on their rights if that seriously ill and dangerous person can't buy a gun and slaughter innocent people. That is horrifying. It's radical. They're wrong. And we should overwhelmingly reject this hideous, hideous amendment. And I yield back.
Okay, so that was Congressman Cicilline talking about the red flag law. So basically, some states already have this in play. It looks like they want to do it at the federal level. So all states will have to abide by this red flag law, which would basically say that if someone's mentally ill or they're talking about mass shootings or talking about something like that, well, they can be reported and their guns can temporarily be taken away. And so we know in a lot of situations that when we're watching these things play out, we see that some situations you have them show, they're putting out these red flags, right? They're saying exactly what they're going to do. And then we find out later they carry it out. And then when we look back, we see that there was a trail. So this is legislation that they're talking about. This is in the House. So the House can pass this. Then it has to go to the Senate. So we'll have to see if they are able to pass this red flag law. So I think they're going to tie some other things in with this bill, so it won't just be the red flag law. They'll probably do the universal background check. They'll probably do the high capacity magazines, getting rid of those. And so there's going to be more to it, but this is just one portion. Now, I do want to show you guys, I did a poll, and I want to show you the poll that I posted here. This was, 4 days ago. So do you think universal background checks should be required in all states and for all gun purchases? Okay, now I wanted to make sure that I put all gun purchases, because some people are going to say, well, background checks are already there. I have to do a background check before I buy a handgun or an assault rifle. Well, that is if you're going to a gun store. But if you're buying a gun at a gun show, or you're buying it just person to person, so let's say I wanted to sell a handgun to a friend, well, that friend doesn't have to go through a background check, or not even a friend, just the same selling to anyone. They don't have to go through a background check in order to make that purchase. And so they want to make it universal. And I think that's the key here. You want to have something universal. If you have one state doing it, another state not doing it, then people can just go to that state that's not doing it, buy all the guns they want, and then come back to wherever state it has to be something that's universal. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the poll here. So we have 2,300 people participated in this poll. 90% of the people said yes. Okay, and this kind of goes with what we're hearing. We're hearing different politicians talk about this. We're seeing different polls that are out there when it comes to universal background checks, and it's pretty much the vast majority of the American people are okay with some type of a universal background check. Okay, and we have 7% saying no, and then we have 4% saying leave things the way that they are. So I kind of understand that no and leave things the way that they are kind of the same. So we can say about, and this comes out, this poll is off a little bit because it's not complete 100%. You have 11% saying, we'll say 11% saying no, so 7% plus the 4% saying no, and then you have 90%, which wouldn't really be 90%, it would be more like 89% saying yes. But nonetheless, the vast majority of the American people they're for universal background checks. Now, what I think should happen, what I think they should do is they should go ahead and do standalone bills. Okay. They should have a universal background check standalone bill. The vast majority of the American people are for that. Introduce that into the Senate. Go ahead and try to pass it through the Senate, because that's going to be the hardest hurdle, because, you have 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. So it's going to be hard to pass that. In order for them to pass it, they're going to need the 60 votes. Okay. And that means that you're going to need all 50 Democrats to support it, plus you're going to need 10 Republicans. And so I think that they should introduce something like that. Standalone bill. This is something that's very, very popular. Some of the other stuff that they're talking about, the red flag laws, the high capacity magazines, all this other stuff, it's going to be harder to pass. And that's why Congressman Cicilline was so upset, because he was getting pushback about the red flag law. And so that's the reason why he was so upset. So you're going to have some real pushback when it comes to some of these different proposals that they're putting out there. But pass what you can. You can pass this. You have the American people supporting this. And so it'd be very hard if Republicans don't want to go with the universal background checks, it's going to be very hard for them to answer to their constituents in a situation like this. And maybe later this week, I'll show you, there was a clip of, I think it was Senator Grassley. He was trying to, he had a town hall, and he was talking with his constituents, and they were very, very upset with him over this gun legislation and the filibuster, because the filibuster is becoming an issue now. And you're having Republicans saying, well, it's just not going to pass anyway. And they're saying, well, no, it'll pass if you get rid of the filibuster.
Over 400 million guns in the United States, 15 million of them are AR-15s. So you're going to still have AR-15s even if you stop selling them right now.
No, you ban them.
The answer is not to do nothing.
You get rid of them.
Right. There are things that we can do.
You take somebody with you,
Yes.
you confiscate them, and you fine them, or you put them in jail.
Yep.
Well, the answer to your question is a process answer. Whatever we do through the Cornyn-Murphy cooperative effort to make schools safe and to do what you can with guns, that probably would not get 60 votes. And I'll say,
Quit filibustering it then.
Because you have this filibuster, which means that you need the 60 votes. Yeah, a lot of things aren't passing because of that. So we'll have to follow the story and see where it goes. I know I say that all the time, but that's pretty much where we are when it comes down to it. And so this is something they're going to have to move on pretty quickly, because they're going to be going on recess again at the end of the month. And that'll be the 4th of July recess. And so this needs to get done by, I think I said in another video I posted, I think it was the 24th. So the 24th, they need to have this done. And so we'll see if that is the case. I want to know what you guys think about all this. Do you think they should do a standalone bill for universal background checks, since that is something that's very popular, and then move on standalone bills for some of this other stuff? Or do you think they should just put one big bill together and just pass one bill, or try to pass one bill? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.